Welcome back to
Swarthy
Nerd. Everyday manifestations today. These old systems didn't disappear. They morphed. Today, Black Americans face stark disparities across multiple domains. Black Americans are incarcerated at more than 5 times the rate of white Americans for similar offenses. The Anti-Drug Abuse Act of the 1980s penalized crack cocaine, more common in black communities, far more harshly than powder cocaine, predominantly used by white users. Those sentencing disparities fueled the prison pipeline. Public school budgets remain tied to local property taxes. Neighborhoods marked hazardous or redlined in the 1930s still see depressed property values today, resulting in underfunded schools, overcrowded classrooms, fewer resources, outdated materials. Black mothers in America are 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes than white mothers. Each of these examples demonstrate how historical policy, segregation, redlining, discriminatory sentencing still produce racially disparate outcomes. At its core, white supremacy is about power controlling where people live, work, and even how dissent is handled. Consider many affluent suburbs use zoning regulations to ban multifamily housing, ensuring only single-family homes at high price points. This keeps black families out of these communities, preserves property value, and maintains economic. White supremacist elites rely on the state's coercive force historically and today to enforce racial hierarchy. During Reconstruction, Southern militias and federal troops alike were deployed to suppress black self-determination. In 1967, over 20,000 National Guard and Army troops descended on Detroit to squash uprisings sparked by systematic neglect and police brutality. In the late 1960s, the Los Angeles Police Department created the first Special Weapons and Tactics Team, specifically to respond to urban rebellions and armed black activist groups. After the 1965 Watts riots and facing armed resistance from Black Panther chapters, the LAPD formed SWAT in 1967 to counter what was characterized as black extremist threats. This model spread nationwide, transforming policing into a paramilitary enterprise designed to contain and intimidate black communities whenever they organized for justice. More recently, during the 2014 Ferguson unrest, local police deployed armed vehicles, sniper rifles, tear gas, and flashbang grenades against predominantly black protesters, demanding justice after Mike Brown's killing. Throughout the 2010s, SWAT teams and the special response units fed by surplus military equipment were sent to black neighborhoods under the guise of crime fighting, fueling a cycle of fear and containment rather than public safety. When black communities organize or protest, that same military might is used to intimidate, disperse, and incarcerate, reinforcing the message that challenging white supremacy carries the threat of overwhelming force. These tactics rest on the same logic that created Jim Crow and redlining, ensuring black Americans remain excluded and controlled through legal codes and armed power. Recognizing these patterns is the first step towards change. Consider the data. White crime rates underreporting. White individuals make up roughly 70% of adult arrests and 59% of violent crime arrests. White offenders also dominate property crime statistics like burglary and larceny. Yet white-collar crimes, embezzlement, corporate fraud, insider trading generating hundreds of billions in financial losses annually, with only a small fraction leading to prosecution. When convictions occur, white-collar defendants often receive more lenient sentences than individuals convicted of street crime. High-profile cases like Bernie Madoff's $65 billion Ponzi scheme show how white offenders evade scrutiny for years, highlighting a double standard. Frances Cress Welsing described racism as a genocidal complex rooted in fear of genetic annihilation, a pathology requiring constant reinforcement. Neely Fuller Jr. defines racism not as individual prejudice, but a systematic power-based system of advantage, where color dictates who holds power and who is oppressed. Tariq Nasheed calls racism the original conspiracy theory, showing how myths and narratives bind white communities in a faith-like adherence to supremacy. When you see coded language like urban crime or dismiss factual evidence of racial disparities, that's the covert form of white supremacy in action. Naming it is how you begin to dismantle it.
Yeah,
am in Tokyo, geeked out, mind on tech. Black nerd in the game, but I still get respect. Got my anime drip in that Gundam fit. Knowledge in my brain, but my game too legit. They love the way I talk, foreign tongue on deck. Spit a couple lines in Nihongo they repped.